This interview is being conducted for the Veterans History Project for the Library of Congress. The veteran's name is Dill. He was born April 30th, 1923. He served in the Pacific during World War II. He achieved the rank of corporal. We were recording this on, what's the date? You know?
20th.
February 20th? Yeah, February 20th, 2015. I'm Will Hines and conducting this interview, no relation. So Mr. Dill, can you kind of start talking about being raised in Landrum and deciding to enlist and that process?
Oh, why did I enlist?
Well, yeah. So you're from Landrum. You were raised in Landrum.
Yes.
And did you go to Landrum High School?
Went to Landrum the first year, and then they started running a school bus from Capabara to Ingleside Church. That's midway between Landrum and Capabara. And our farm, we lived right above the church, just back this way. I was really there was 4 school districts there. You know, back at that time, it wasn't like it. They finally, you know, consolidated a lot of it. And they started running the school bus to Ingleside Church. So I walked to Ingleside Church and caught the school bus went to Capabara. And I finished school at Capabara in 1941.
Wow. So you finished in 1941 and you're 18 years old?
Yeah, we'll say that.
18. And so you decide to enlist?
Yes.
And can you kind of talk about where you went to enlist and what you did?
Pardon?
Can you kind of talk about where you went to enlist? Like, you said you went down to...
Oh, Spartanburg.
Oh, so you went to Spartanburg to enlist?
Oh, I was working at Drayton.
Okay.
Drayton Mill.
And so you were working at Drayton Mill doing what?
Doing doffing. And they taught me to weave while I was there.
Weave?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
To operate a machine to weave cloth.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you were working Drayton Mill, and so you decide to enlist?
Yes.
And so why did you decide to enlist? You had seen Pearl Harbor, and what happened? The
recruiters, in other words, they had a policy going, if you enlisted, which I had to get parental permission, if you enlisted, you could get to school of your choice. I was at the age to believe everything that I heard.
So they got you.
So when I went in, I went from Jackson to Miami Beach. The Air Force had taken over all the hotels. They were housing it. The Air Force had taken it over. And I thought I was going to go get my basic training in Miami. And I was there 4 days, and they called me out, and they loaded me on the troop train with many others, and whatever school, tech school, that you'd have, we'll say in the Air Force, was on that train. And we didn't know where we were going.
Did you know what you would end up doing? You just knew you were in the Air Corps?
Yeah.
And so did you ever want to be a pilot, or did you want to work on planes?
Well, I thought about it at times, but I never did. Or I could thought about planes. Well, that's what that gave my choice. They told me if I could pass the test, they'd send me to the school of my choice. So I knew I was going to go to aviation mechanics school.
Okay. So you went to the school in Jacksonville.
No, I went to school in Edmond. They sent me to Edmond, Oklahoma. All of these soldiers is picked up in Miami on that troop train when we got just 12 miles from Oklahoma City. Oklahoma State Teachers College. Central Oklahoma State Teachers College. They unloaded us. We marched off the train. We went into the basement of one of the buildings on the college campus. We picked up our textbooks and our bedding, blankets, and we went to the dormitory.
So did you have any training during this time at all? Did they ever drill you or anything, or were you just a student?
I had some training, and we'd go out on the gun range, but we'd drill, but that's all. That's all training.
What were you shooting? A Springfield bolt action, or?
I believe it's Springfield.
So, but you mainly studied. You spent a lot of time studying.
Oh, we had military correspondence, one typing, and military correspondent, typing. We had about 5 or 6 subjects. Let's see. I'd go in, get up at 5, be in class at 6.
6 in the morning?
Yeah. And get out 10 minutes to 7. We had 10 minutes to go from one class to the next. Let's see. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. That's 5 subjects. And then 2, 3, 4. Had about 8 subjects.
Oh my gosh. I don't know if I could do that now.
Yeah, well, what I mean, that was our setup.
Mm-hmm.
And it was about 2 months. I had more than I had in any year in high school.
In that little 2 months that you...
Yeah, that's what I figured.
Well, they packed it.
Yeah.
So, you just spent 2 months there and then you were sent...
I went from Edmond, Oklahoma to Salt Lake City, what they call replacement depot. That was where they'd take your soldiers to come in and they'd send them out to the outfits that they need to be in.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and had Guadalcanal already started? It started at Guadalcanal. Didn't it start the battle itself? The Battle of Guadalcanal?
Oh no, the battle had done started in 42.
Right. It was just a long, drawn-out battle.
Yeah. And I arrived on the canal, I left the 13th of June of 43. And I arrived on the canal the 13th of July 43. And I was put in the 13th Air Force. 13, 13, 13, you know.
Those 13s.
That's
easy. An unlucky number.
That's fine. I'm lucky and didn't know it.
Mm-hmm. So, let me go back a little bit. So you went from Oklahoma to Salt Lake City and you went to the replacement depot.
I went to the depot. They sent me out and assigned me to aerodrome outfit at Wendover Field, Utah.
And what did you do there?
Oh, we just, we'd march some, go to the rifle range, things like that.
And so, did you get any practice for what you would end up doing?
Oh, we got practice for our, out on the rifle range, something like that.
Mm-hmm. So, you spent a decent amount of time in that location, correct?
Pardon?
How much time did you spend there?
At Window Field?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe 2 months. Might have not been that long.
So you spent, a month or two here and there.
I got out of school, and I ended up, when I got out of school, they ended up sending me there.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I spent 2 or 3 months there.
And where did you go from there?
Went to California, Camp Stone. And then that's where I was shipped from there overseas.
Do you remember getting on that transport ship, and what were your feelings whenever you...
Well, we were leaving. Yeah, we had our packs back. We got on that transport. We went under the Golden Gate.
Mm-hmm. What were you thinking? Were you thinking, I hope I come back, or?
No, I never did. You didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
I did. Most of the young fellas, they didn't think that way. They just didn't. They were in service, and that was it.
Right. And it was, I guess, an experience. They were in California for the first time in their life.
Yeah, everything was an experience.
Mm-hmm. So you traveled under the Golden Gate Bridge, heading out?
And we came back. When I came back, I came back under the Golden Gate Bridge.
Wow. So you spent a couple of weeks out at sea, is that correct?
Spent a month.
Oh my God.
Traveling to the. We made one stop in New Caledonia.
New Caledonia. I know that's where a lot of troops came through.
Yeah.
Probably about 5 veterans I've interviewed, they said they stopped in New Caledonia.
We stopped in New California, and then went on Guadalcanal.
And what did, how did you land on Guadalcanal? Was there any type of docking system set up, or did they just put you in a landing craft and drive you in?
It was, when we landed, we went off, it might have been, they used amphibious, the
Mm-hmm. The Higgins boats?
They used that in the boats, both. I don't remember was the amphibious I went off on, because they had amphibious. I had a first cousin there that was there at Guadalcanal. He's from Greens Creek. And that's what he was in. It's one of those amphibious outfits.
Mm-hmm.
So they used those to unload troops and supplies.
Now, what did the island look like? Could you tell that there had been a lot of fighting whenever you first landed? Yeah,
see, a lot of the trees had been stripped. Maybe. Oh, everything I was in was coconut grove on the canal. That's where we had our camp. We camped in Guadalcanal had, I went to work in operations on Kearney Field. That was a bomber field. They had a Henderson field. It was the first. And then they had the fighter strip. It was running kind of parallel with it.
Mm-hmm.
And they ended up before I left. I say I'd have to go back and look at my records, see how long I was at Guadalcanal. I might have stayed there nearly a year.
Wow.
And
because I guess that was the basis of the air operations in the Pacific for a long time, correct? Until you started reaching out.
And the Japanese were, whenever we went in, they were still after it.
The air base.
Come over and bomb it at night. Excuse me. And my cousin, I wished I had my book. I got a book for Christmas for 13th Air Force Command. Mm-hmm. It really gave a history. Mm-hmm. I'm talking about just unbelievable. And I worked in our operations. I could realize it. It took me nearly a month reading. And I loaned it to a friend, Jack Stone. He's interested. He went in after I did to be a cadet. And
So, do you remember any of the bombings? Were you there when they were bombing? When the Japanese would come over and bomb the airfield, or try to?
Yeah. They would drop the bombs usually. There wasn't any bombs dropped there on. I was trying to think. They'd come over at night when they got there. Mm-hmm. But let me tell you, they were pulling raids my cousin informed me that about a month before I arrived, the Japanese pulled attack came on. There was another island right close, Tulagi they called it, or Russell Island.
Mm-hmm.
That the Japanese came from the Bougainville area to bomb Guadalcanal. And they was really after Henderson Field. The Japanese lost 90-something planes in that raid.
From anti-aircraft or just planes that had flown off the ground? And
mostly planes, our fighter planes that was waiting on them.
Oh.
That's, I've read it through the history recently. What I mean, that brings memories back to me.
Do you remember, bombers flying back in, shot up?
Yeah, there's some that came back, shot at.
Mm.
Remember some not coming back.
Yeah. Were you in charge of, charting which planes didn't make it back?
No, we didn't chart which. Nobody charted. We kept up, the ones that didn't return.
Right.
Because
exactly.
We had the sheets. We had the log sheets.
Exactly. That's what. So you kind of had those papers, and you knew which ones didn't come back and how many were sent out.
Yeah, you knew that something happened, and sometime you'd hear why, and you know where this going. You know their call numbers and that different kind of things. And then whenever they departed, we would report to their outfit that their plane had departed.
Were you air traffic controlled at all, or were you just...
No, we worked between the air traffic control and the squadrons. They had the planes.
Okay.
Operations, that's and see, the operation looked after about what was happening and everything going on in the field. Like if a plane come in damaged, if they needed the crash truck, fire truck.
Okay.
That's is interesting.
That is interesting.
And then you had the people in and out. You'd hear about the weather report, and I'd see photographs that the photographic planes would go out and take and come in. And, working in operation is just a general.
So you got to see a lot of information doing that job.
And I remember like it was about bomb sites, Norden bomb sites. It was a great thing. And they were so secret, it's unbelievable. And I remember it was in a Quonset hut, we'll say is steel Quonset hut. And it was longer than this room. And in the center, we had those bomb sites just stacked up, in the plywood boxes. They'd stack them.
Really?
They'd take them out of those planes.
So the Japanese couldn't get their hands on them?
Yeah, to where they couldn't steal them and things like that, Norden bomb sites. And, and our outfit was relieved. See, we was running the airfield. We operated the airfield. And I remember whenever we were relieved, another outfit come in and took over. We was going to move on up. I worked in Air Corps Supply a little while. It's right next to my squadron. Kearney Field, and right across the road was where my squadron was, We were in a coconut grove, and we had tents.
How did it rain often? Was the weather bad at all, or was it mostly just pretty and sunny?
It was a monsoon type climate. It was rainy.
And would it get muddy in your tent when it rained like that?
No, most of them we had our
floor
tents off the ground.
That's smart.
That's What number does it give?
Keith Collins.
Yeah, I know. I know it.
Oh, okay.
Effing.
Well, I guess she.
Just let it go. It'll.
I
maybe
think she answered
picked it up.
Mm-hmm. Okay, back where we were. Oh yeah, monsoons, weather. So the weather was bad on Guadalcanal. Just.
Oh, what? Yeah, we had the monsoon season like it would really rain. Mosquitoes, we had the mosquitoes. Oh, I took took Alabrine tablets all the time for malaria.
Wow. Did you ever get malaria or
No.
any type of disease over there?
No,
You're lucky.
I know. I didn't get athletic foot either. You know, that was a thing. It was soldiers had trouble with.
I didn't think of that. So, you're relieved of duty on Guadalcanal, and you move on to where?
I went off. That's when I went to Middleburg Island off of Sansapor, New Guinea, and it was only a mile or two off of the mainland.
So you could see the mainland of New Guinea from that island?
Oh yeah. And they had their bombers there. Let's see if I might have something here that I can show you. This right here, I wish I had a blown up of that.
Is that Middleburg?
Yeah.
I'll get a close look. Small.
Do you know what this?
Is that, oh, I got it.
You know what this is?
That's the airstrip.
Exactly.
And you.
This was coral. This island we'll say is coral, sandy, you know.
Mm-hmm.
They built. It took them about 30 days to build this strip.
That's quick.
And they had, and that they used the motor graders to shape their contour of the land, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And then they put down on this coral. This dark looking stuff, that's steel matting. It was made in North Carolina. They called it Marston steel matting. It was in links, and they could link it together. I don't remember how long they were or anything, but that's what they used over there.
That's interesting. And so your airstrip that you worked with, that was a fighter pilot airstrip?
This was the fighter pilot.
And so the P-38s.
P-38s.
Do you remember how many planes approximately were at the airstrip?
You know, let's say we had, might have been 12, 15, or 20 or something like that. But we had a lot of bunkers, like. They could land a lot of planes. They used this island not only for that. I've seen B-24s that had come up from, we'll say, I believe, Finchhaven or Hollandia down on New Guinea, the coast. They would fly to Sumatra, bomb the oil fields, and they would come back into, we call it Middleburg, but it's Middleburg. But even in the book that I got, called it Middleburg. And it was a Dutch possession. And there's another island not far from us. They said, and I always remembered we see a light maybe at times. They said missionaries was on it. It was another small island. That was Dutch possession too.
That's interesting. And so how long did you stay on that island?
Several months.
It looks like it's a pretty island.
Well, all of this was this was a coconut grove before we went in.
So where did you stay?
Right back
down there.
This right over here was the
barracks.
Yeah, we had tents. That's
wow. That's neat.
And I've seen, like I was telling you about the planes. I've seen this here. You'd think if airplanes could sink it. I've seen so many planes in here that come in and refueling them. They didn't have enough fuel to make it the trip from where they were at. Because they would leave about 3 o'clock in the morning or something like that. I didn't know how many miles it was that they would travel. But P-38s would travel with fuel tanks. P-38 with about 160-gallon fuel tank. I believe I'm correct. They could travel about 800 miles.
Wow.
And that was a lot of miles. That was the one with the twin fuselage.
Right, that's exactly what I was thinking. The P-38s were the big fighter planes, correct?
Yeah.
Were they 2-engine?
2 engines, exactly.
Wow.
It was really something, the P-38. And you know the Zeros were light. And they could outmaneuver the P-38 at a low altitude. But if the P-38 got up 35,000 feet, they could go. They'd eat those Zeros up.
Really? So I guess the Zero strategy would just be to dive every chance they got.
Yeah, but they were light. They weren't built like the. And I remember being on off of New Guinea on this island about the first P-51s fighter planes. I saw they came in. They buzzed the field. And they weren't painted. See, all the planes, they had mostly painted them. And then they finally found out they didn't have to. They quit painting those planes. But I mean, but that P-51, they could really climb. But the Americans, they had P-39s and P-40s, and they ended up, there's a lot of P-40s built, went to Lend-Lease, went to Russia.
Oh, okay.
Because
they weren't that great of planes, is that what you're saying?
It wasn't nothing like a P-38 or 51 or P-47s, something, like those. But the P-40 had to be a workhorse because they gave them to the Australians. They flew them in there in the Pacific. The Australians were flying P-40.
Really?
Yeah.
And so would they fly out of Australia, or did they have other islands around?
No, they flew out of some of those places, all those American air bases.
You don't hear about the Australians very much with fighter pilots.
They were in there. Let me tell you this. I made out off of New Guinea. A P-40 came in, crash landed. His hydraulic system was shut out.
So he couldn't lower his wheels?
Couldn't lower his landing gear. He came in, I still remember. I wished I'd have remembered his name. I was the one that filled out the accident report. And it had a question. Combat hours. And he looked at me, he says, 1,500 and something. And I thought he misunderstood me. And I explained to him. He said, well, I've flown in England, North Africa, and then he was in the Pacific. And he's wearing black coveralls. 1,500 something hours an hour. And I knew, like, you know, for command, I mean, a command pilot back then, a man, if you looked up and he had the wings on and he had that star in it, that means that he had had 10,000 hours of airtime. You know, you don't forget stuff like that.
Wow.
It's, oh, but, and then, whenever we left New Guinea, we went to Palawan Island, Philippines, got our big convoy together. And I don't remember exactly, we say it took us 2 weeks or longer, maybe, say 2 weeks, I'm just guessing. And I remember us being in this convoy. I don't remember how many ships, a lot of them. And it had an alert. We never did know whether it was a sub or what. I mean, it was, could have been a sub or whatever.
Right.
But we had an alert while we was in that convoy.
Did they start zigzagging at all?
Well, the alert was there. We was all, and we didn't go down. We watched. You'd see what we could see. Oh, let's see, where was it? Yeah, Guadalcanal, let me tell you. We had a machine gun Charlie would come over at night. They'd come over to drop a few bombs and harass
and
troops.
Keep you awake.
Yeah, keep them awake. And his plane came over one night, went up, bomber, our night fighter went up. And that was on Henderson Field. Say I was 3 miles away from Henderson Field. On Kearney Field. And the artillery, they got him in the searchlights. See, they had their lights, radar and everything. They could pick him up. So that's a foxhound. That's a pet.
Yep.
And the night fighter came down. He got one. And the anti-aircraft fire, you know, he was not supposed to come down through the anti-aircraft fire.
Right.
And he came down through that anti-aircraft fire, went back up, got another one. There's 2 of those planes, and he got both of them. Oh, it was in that book. I wished I just had it to read. But we wasn't in a foxhole. We had our helmets on, but you know, we were out watching all that, cheering them on. But he got those 2 Japanese planes. And it ended up, this fella, it gave his name. He's from New York, and whenever he got 6 planes while he was over there.
Oh wow!
Made 6 kills.
Night fighter too.
Yeah.
That's difficult.
And it gave his name. He is from New York, and he came back. He went to the University of Kentucky, and finished law school. And he made a district judge or something for 20-something years.
So, are there any other stories that you just remember, or some of the most, I don't know, incredible things that you saw over there?
Yeah, I still remember. I never did sit and talk about it. When I come back from service, I never did sit and talk to people about it. I just didn't talk. It didn't. I came back and I could have went to school and Uncle Sam was sending them to school or give them. They had a plan that pay them $20 for 26 weeks. You know. So me and I followed Roy Hall. Roy lived around Spartanburg. We was friends. We decided we wanted to go in the car business. And we went to the VA and talked about some money. You know, they had loaning some people money, and we went. And I don't remember how much we told them we had, but they didn't think we needed any money. So we thanked them. They went on, and see, I was working at Drayton. They didn't taught me to weave, and they was paying about $50 a week. Big money. So I went back to Drayton, went to work. I worked 15 months. We had a mill, we called it a mill bus. They was running a bus from Landrum to Drayton Mill and back each shift. And at 15 months, this fellow down you in Landrum, there's an old garage up here, right on 176. I wanted to get out of the textile. Came to my mind to get out of the textile. A fellow named Jimmy Bishop, his brother had operated the garage. He's built in the teens, old building.
Wow.
And he said Furman's garage is for sale. He had a stroke. And I knew his brother used to go in and out when my dad was young. You know, I was a youngster. And I said, find out how much you want for it. He come back and said, he said he'd take $2,200 for it. And I said, I'll buy it. I'll take it. I bought the garage. I went in, I stayed with him a little over a year. And we was doing the business. People wouldn't pay us. So I decided I'd get out. And the fella that was supplying us parts from, auto parts from Norden, a fella, Foy Childs. I told him, talked to him, he says, Dill said, I tell you what I'll do. He said, if you go buy you a truck, come to my place, I'll supply you auto parts at 5% above the invoice, and we'll pull the invoices. He said, there's plenty of business over in this country. I went and I found me a truck. I bought a little 40 Chevrolet school bus. It's hard to find vehicles. I looked for something delivery with, you know. And they had a friend that lived, my wife lived, shifted up on Trade Street here in Landrum. Next door neighbor, and he was buying trucks. Fellow Leroy Road. He ended up in Spartanburg, worked for years out on West Main, selling vehicles, trucks. And Leroy says, I tell you what, you go with me to Boston. He said, we'll find you something.
Boston?
Yeah. So we went to Boston, went out to the Concord Auto Auction. And I looked at the Dillco as a delivery truck, you know. Had the engine in the center. Milk trucks, milk routes, used them all over. Bread routes. And looked at that. Then turn around. Here it was this little short 16 passenger Chevrolet school bus. And Leroy looked at that. Oh, he looked, he says, tell you what. He said, this would be the ideal. He said, just pull these seats out. Build you some shelves. I bought that. And you know, I used that thing 6 years. Pulled the seats out, I built some shelves, put my supplies in it, and I used it 6 years. Then I ended up buying a step van, Chevrolet step van. But I never did. I never did try to run. I had my warehouse, the building still, that I finally ended up using. It's next to Freeman Gas here in Landrum, up on 176. I got 2 buildings right there, in there. Well, my son's got one on the corner, 14176. But that's where I operate out of.
That's neat.
Tryon, Columbus. I started out working Mill Springs, and I finally quit. But I worked Tryon, Columbus, Landrum, Capabella, Little Chicago. You know where Little Chicago area is at. Go to Grambling and turn to the right and go back out over in
Grambling.
Little Chicago area. And I worked Greens Creek area. Worked Chestnut, all that down between Greens
That's
Creek.
a long way. Well, I guess it's not too far away, Chesney.
No, I worked Capians, Spartanburg,
So
Valley Falls, Bowling Springs.
that's a lot.
Like in 3 years, been 63 years. Met a lot of good people.
I bet you know this area really well.
Well, I should, as much as I've been out, over the roads. And I met a lot of families. That's it. And I had a lot relatives all over, just so you know.
So, kind of going back to where you were in the service. So you were at the little airstrip. What was it called? Middleburg.
Yeah.
And so you were there, and then you went to the Philippines, right?
Went to the Philippines, and I went to when we went to the Philippines, went to Palawan. I didn't go back out on the airstrip. I went in the engineering office. At my request, our chief clerk, we'll say the clerk of all of them, his name is Arthur Uthatat. And I told Arthur, I said, I don't want to go back out on the airstrip. I said, what about me just going to engineering? So, and I had a reason. I could never make any rank. I went overseas as a corporal. They had a table of organization. It's only allowed so many sergeants, so many corporals, and all that ended up getting filled the way it was. I never could make another rank. I worked all through that, and I trained even boys they need somebody, and most all of the fellows that I worked for, they didn't go to school for engineering operations. And I told Arthur about what I work. Could I work in yeah. So he doesn't have people he can run he'd work with that let them run the operations. And I wasn't in charge or anything. We always had an operation officer, That's but I stayed on Palawan. I didn't go back out on a trip on the strips in the operation on the strip, But later on I thought about it. I wished I had because it was really so much interesting.
Right.
But I learned a lot even working in operation. I'd work with tech orders, they had their tech books and things, write up inspection reports on airplanes. But I mean, it was interesting, but it wasn't like it was working in operation.
Yeah.
And I remember when we went into Palawan, they captured a night fighter. It was intact. They couldn't tell anything that was wrong with it. And you know, they worked with that plane for I don't know how long. And there's 2 or 3 of them, I believe it was the 3rd one that tried to fly it. They'd get it off the ground, it'd start vibrating. Had an aero engine. And finally, I did know then who it was. Was one of our generals, or some of them finally crashed it.
Oh, God.
But they studied that thing for I don't know how long, that night fighter. It was, saw a lot of interesting things.
Sounds pretty neat.
And you know, the outfit I was in, they were, actually I thought about we had sheet metal men, we had propeller men, work on propellers, we had parachute men.
Just to help with parachutes?
Pardon?
Just to help with parachutes?
They could make them or fold them and, you know, and all that kind of stuff. I said they'd make them, whatever it took, you know. But instrument, work on instruments.
So many different people there just for the airplane.
Air Force, you know what, the Air Force had the boys. And I'd laugh and tell about it. I wouldn't, you know, my name being Dill, and around, and I had cousins that was Hortons, and cousins that were Smiths, cousins that were Hiders. You're familiar with those names. And then I got in service, and I found all of these odd names. It's just, to me, it's just fascinating. And I think, and Jewish people. I was one, and I stayed in the tent on the canal for a while. I had stayed with 2 Jewish fellows. One's name was Hank, and he worked on instruments. He was a watchmaker, actually. And the other one, he was a sheet metal specialist. Brooksmire from New York, I remember his name. And I thought about those just different people, you know, that you'll meet in life and talk to. You learn that there's more than. That's like it is about you going to school at Clemson.
I meet a lot of people.
Whenever you go down that list, it's amazing. Just think about the people that you will meet and about what all the fascinations and things will happen. And you'll run in, somebody somewhere will try to take you a wrong route. Just put brakes on. Put brakes on. And then you go on, and later on you'll think about it, say, thank you, Lord.
Well, Mr. Dill, I really appreciate the interview. I thank you so much for your time and your service.
You still make me think about Hines.